Hi, Chief Keith Kimball again here. I promised you some upcoming videos about frauds and scams, and what we're going to talk about today is really timely. So one of the things, there's a big tie into a lot of our frauds and scams where someone at a time where they're not expecting a phone call, a lot of times these come on phone calls, and you look down at your caller ID, whether it's on your cell phone or your local line, and it may look like it's some type of a business. It may look like a bank, credit union, a financial institution, or even a government agency such as law enforcement. You have to be very leery because there's something called caller ID spoofing. And what that really is these scammers are able to make it appear that when you receive a phone call that it's coming from a legitimate source, as I've stated earlier. And in fact, that's not the case. They are able to input phone numbers to make them either look local, like they're coming from a local number, or from, like I said, a government institution or a bank or a financial institution. So what I tell people is, if you are not expecting the phone call, first off, nothing says you have to answer the phone call. My recommendation is do not answer the phone. If it's important enough, somebody will leave you a message. The other thing that these scammers are doing is they're trying to see who might bite. So if you pick up the phone and answer the phone, that may be one way where they'll continue to target you because you did answer. But also when they may give you some choices through key prompts to go ahead and push a number, and by you pushing that number and answering that, you will actually they will target you more. So the whole idea is you do not want to give in. Now the other reason I'm telling you this is because what you should do is, if you do pick up the phone, hang up and go in on your own, research the actual phone number of that company. But understand, if it's a call spoofing, it'll actually look like the legitimate number. So if you ever are concerned, then you can always go back and research that number and then call it directly, that you know you're calling the actual government agency or that financial institution. That's what I would recommend. The reason I want to bring this up is I'm going to give you an actual scenario that happened to me personally just a few weeks ago. And me being a police officer and knowing all these things, I want to show you the tactics, because I did not fall for it, but I don't want to say I almost did, but this is another scam that they do. So by them calling you and acting like they're the actual financial institution, they're going to tell you that you have had some type of fraud to your account. And then what they're going to do through that, they're going to start asking you yes/no questions, and then they're going to start asking you for personal information. It could be passwords, mother's maiden names, all types of things that social security information. So you never, ever, ever give any personal information over the phone. And I will tell you that if you are a victim of a fraud and the bank is not going to contact you that way through a phone call, like I said, hang up and call them back. That's what they're trying to do, pressure you when you least suspect it. So a few weeks ago, while I was at work, I received a phone call on my cell phone, and it came up with an actual local credit union that I'm a member of. And so by all purposes, to me, it looks like a legitimate phone call. I answered the call. They let me know that they felt that possibly one of the credit card transactions on my personal credit card might be fraudulent. And so they started asking me these questions that I started not feeling comfortable with. And they asked me, did you make a charge for such an amount of money over in Singapore? Well, and I answered no, which was fine. I didn't give them any information. But then they told me that due to that, they would go ahead and cancel my credit card, which is pretty ordinary, and that they would mail me a new one, which that is, again, pretty standard. But what tipped me off is I hadn't given them any personal information, but what they told me was, in order for them to issue me a new credit card, they wanted me to read off the 3-digit code on the back of my credit card, which, if you don't realize that, that is the most sacred information that you have. Many credit card numbers are probably out there in the dark web and are out there, but until you have that 3-digit code, you can't make transactions over the internet. by giving that 3-digit code, you could. So I questioned that. I refused to give him that 3-digit code because I knew that that was not something that needed to be done, and told them I did not feel comfortable. I hung up, and then I called my credit union, and sure enough, I was absolutely right. They had just put out a warning to all their customers. In fact, it was on their recording while you waited for customer service, telling you that do not give out your 3-digit code, and that there was this fraud going around throughout the United States. The bank even says they don't even have that information. So that 3-digit code is specific to you and that particular card, and no one knows it except you. So that what would have happened if I would have given them that 3-digit code, I would have assumed everything was fine, hung up. Meanwhile, they would have made all kinds of fraudulent charges over the internet with my credit card, until at some point we would realize that, but somebody may have been a victim and been out money. By me not doing that, they weren't able to carry off their fraud. So caller ID spoofing, like I said, that is the one thing that is always a connection to all these frauds, because if you receive a phone call, it's going to show a number that looks legitimate, but really it's not a legitimate caller, and again, just hang up. Again, and they're always going to pressure you for information. The last thing that I wanted to just kind of follow up on from my last talk about ATM Bitcoin kiosks is, coincidentally, since we talked last time, the Iowa Attorney General has filed lawsuits against two main ATM crypto companies, one being Bitcoin Depot and the other being CoinFlip, because over the last 3 years, over $20 million of Iowans' money has been taken through these kiosks, which I told you about. Anytime someone asks you to use a Bitcoin ATM kiosk to do a transaction, to give them money, I can tell you 100% it's fraud. 98% of the time that this was done, that it is the Attorney General has proven that they have been scams, and like I said, over $20 million has been lost. And once that money is sent through one of those ATM Bitcoins kiosks, it can never be recovered. It's gone forever. So that's just an update since our last talk, that the Attorney General is going after these crypto ATM coin companies because they're allowing it to occur, and they're partially responsible. Again, I may post some information here on this Facebook post in regards from the Federal Communications Commission and regarding specifically caller ID spoofing that you can go ahead and look up on your own. Thanks, and let's keep ourselves fraud free.